As you work on your DBQ, please remember that our overarching lesson essential question is exploring how Islam spread. Within that, our learning map lays out two goals. Our map topic we've already explored. Now we're really focusing on how we can analyze at a deep level multiple perspectives, meaning sources from different viewpoints on the reason for Islam's growth. In the process, not only are we working to be better readers, but also better writers, reviewing much of what we've learned about writing strong body paragraphs that reference sources and balance evidence and elaboration, and then really emphasizing how to write a strong introduction paragraph in a multi-paragraph essay. That's a new skill and a difficult one, and so it's been the focus of a lot of our DBQ guide. By this point, you should have explored some of the basics of the parts of an introduction, but the way you really get better at these is by doing them. And so you're writing an intro here on the spread of Islam. Let's also think of an example based upon Unit 3 when we were exploring the Middle Ages. So imagine that I gave you this prompt and asked you to write a text-dependent analysis. Think about how you would start an introduction for a topic like this one. Pause and consider for about 30 seconds. I'm going to talk you through the three major parts of an intro and how it might look for this question. Remember that your first part is an attention grabber. This is where your goal is to hook in the audience's attention. One of the strategies for creating an attention grabber is to break apart the big ideas, or as I sometimes call them, the ingredients of your prompt, and then choose one of those ingredients to focus on in your attention grabber, using imagery or statistics or shocking details that might capture that audience attention. So, what might be the ingredients for a prompt like this one? Pause the video and think for about 20 seconds. If I was going to break this into pieces, I think first off, I see the nobles and I think about social class. That's one of our big ideas. From there, I think about maybe power and the time period, the Middle Ages. I think you could write a strong attention grabber that will vividly capture your audience's attention with any one of those three. I think there are pieces you could focus on that really make those interesting openings. For example, you might talk about how social class has long divided the world into haves and have-nots. From the ancient Romans who divided out senators and slaves to today's world where we have the extraordinarily wealthy billionaires to the huge ordinary working people, we see this divide between the upper and lower classes. In the Middle Ages, they had a same divide, right? And so I'm talking about something that is provocative to our audience. People care about social class. We are frustrated by this. You could find statistics about like how many billionaires are there versus how many people are making $50,000 or less. That's the type of thing that will get people related to your topic and give them a doorway to enter. And then you gradually introduce each other idea from there. You might talk about power. Maybe you can say like power comes in many forms. There is economic, political, and cultural power. Today, people use all forms of that. The United States is powerful because of its military. Elon Musk is powerful because he has huge amounts of money and controls a major communications platform. And then you might link this to the Middle Ages. In the Middle Ages, the nobles were powerful. And then you can name the three pieces there with some background information. Here's another example. If I was going to try and use the Middle Ages as my attention grabber, I might start with what's on screen. I'm introducing a piece of my response, but rather than trying to give the complete answer, I'm really trying to develop this one piece in a way that is interesting to my audience. And unfortunately, a lot of people are drawn to chaos. And so starting with some of this vivid language might pull them in. Using this kind of debatable phrase of the Dark Ages, and then linking this to control and power. From there, I might then link into the nobles, and I'm gradually putting all the pieces together. In that process, or afterwards, remember that your second piece is what we call the lead-in. And so your job is to provide the facts an audience really needs to know. Depending on your audience, they might not know anything about the Middle Ages or the nobles. You might not be writing for kids who just sat through a unit with Mr. A. So you need to think, what basics do they need to have a grasp of before they can get into the details of your topic? Pause the video for a moment and think about what those might include. If I'm writing this, I might want to include some basics about what the Middle Ages are, and some basics about social classes, and especially the nobles, since they are the focus of this prompt. Your audience might need some of this information to make sense of your actual ways that they kept power later on. How exactly you weave those all together and which pieces you include is going to be different with every paragraph. But if you're thinking about it at the beginning, it will then give you a starting point for what you need to include in that intro. The last step of an introduction is to create a thesis statement. In truth, this is probably the easiest part of the introduction. Think about the two questions on screen. A thesis is meant to name, not yet explain, but name your central idea. So you might give your two ways the nobles maintain power, but you are not going to explain them yet. Your thesis needs to be precise, but it should be direct. It needs to be very short for the most part. How do we make a thesis? Simple. You restate the prompt. You don't want to use the exact words and you don't want it to be a question, but you're basically taking this prompt and turning it into your own statement, maybe filling in the names of the two ways that will be your answer. Here's my example. When you're writing an introduction, you're putting all of those pieces together. It's not easy because it's never an exact formula, but if you're trying to craft an attention grabber using some basic ingredients from the prompt, if you're then trying to provide the background facts as you narrow their attention down, and then end with your thesis statement in the final sentence, you will be in good shape.